Welcome back to the Anthony Lee Crypto Channel. Today, I'm going to show you how I made over $20,000 in 1 week spot trading one altcoin. Now, I took this spot trade on my live stream that we do every Monday through Friday for the U.S. market open at 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. Join us for that. In fact, subscribe below to the channel so you don't miss that. I took this live on stream, and in 1 week, I was up over $20,000. I do this all the time throughout the year. You can make a living, literally just spot trading altcoins. I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Let's take a look. Now, on today's chart, I'm looking at WorldCoin, WLD. I have it pulled up on the Binance chart here. You can choose any altcoin you like. I have done this, what I'm about to show you, this strategy with 3 different altcoins, okay? I don't recommend, at least for me, I don't like doing more than 2 or 3 when you're trading. Now, if you're going to buy and hodl, that's cool. You can hodl 20 coins, no problem. You need price to go up. You can diversify, that's okay. But if you're trading an asset, you want to kind of become intimately familiar with that asset. You want to learn its support and resistance zone. You want to learn how it moves in uptrends and downtrends. You want to know it. If you have 20 coins, it's impossible to know how each one moves and where their support and resistance are, what's going on with them in the news and things like that. So pick you 1 or 2, maybe 3 altcoins and try this strategy. It really, really works. So what I did is I took me a little speckled notebook and I just went and jotted down some historical figures. I went back through on the cipher indicator and I looked at the 5-day, the 1 week, the 10-day, and I threw in a bonus 2-week green dots, okay? So I went through and I found all of those and I marked them out just like this. And just bear with me. You'll be very successful when you make a lot of money without having a leverage trade doing this. I did not have leverage when I made over $20,000 on the live stream. So I literally just went and marked them out. Each green dot, boom, boom. I'm on the 5-day time frame right now. I went through and marked all of these out for the entire history of WorldCoin, which granted is only a few years. But again, I did this for a few altcoins. I wanted to do more than one altcoin, at least 2. That way, if one of them, the signal fires off and it pumps and you hit that, sometimes other alts just kind of sit stagnant. And then a week or 2 later, they'll get the signal and they'll rise up while the other altcoins kind of falling over. So in case you run into a situation like that, you might can double dip, okay? So I'm not going to go through and mark them all out. You kind of get the point. And what I did was I went through and I literally just put my ruler on and I marked out from the time we got the pump, just like this. Let's say take this one right here from April 11th of 2025. I marked out from the time we got the pump, and then I marked out the percentage that we gained during that first candle. And I wrote that down. Then I wrote out the next candle. So for the 5-day period, that would be 10 days, the percentage that we got there. And then I went and marked out the high, how much we got total from that. Okay, so I had the time frame that we're on, that first candle, how much of a percentage gain did we get? I marked out the next one. So for this one would be 10 days, right? If we're on the 10-day time frame, that would be 20 days, right? And then I marked out the total we got for that entire push, however many days that took. And then I went back and I jotted down how many days that took to get the first initial pump, the second time frame pump, and how long it took to get the max gain. And I went and threw that on a chart. I did that again for the 5-day, the weekly, the 10-day, and the 2-week. And here is what I found. Prepare for the flashbang. It's going to be a little bright. All right, so I threw it in a chart format just like this, okay? And on WorldCoin, I have everything here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take out the September the 8th data, okay? This was a ridiculous 150% pump. I remember this when it happened. It was news driven. That's a huge partnership announcement. It came out. It pumped 150% in like 2 days. It is a complete outlier to all of the rest of the data. So it really kind of skews the data. So I'm going to remove all of the data just pertaining to that September the 8th pump, okay? And that'll give us a little more accurate figures as to what we can look for. And I did this for all those time frames. Now, when we do get the 5-day, the 1 week, the 10-day, or the 2-week green dot, I am fully prepared to enter a trade, even possibly blindly. Now, I do like to see more confluence, money flow, things like that. But I do like to see those kinds of things. But if you just entered it blindly, just blindly on the dot, these are the results that you get, okay? And we're just going to run through a few of these. So I marked everything out, and then you kind of want to look at the outliers. You're going to take those out. So the first one, in the first 5-day, on the very first one ever on WorldCoin was 81%. That is a ridiculous outlier, so I removed that. And then you have a big 134% here. We're going to remove that. And then 99. Okay, so we're going to remove that. Now, what I've got here is an average gain. You can see over here in the table on the right side, average gain after 5 days. So after one 5-day candle, the average gain is 19% for WorldCoin, okay? Now I can come back and look at the table for all of the times that we had this signal, and the minimum was 7%, okay? So you got to figure if you're just spot trading, you don't have leverage, you're going to make whatever percentage the gain is. So if you have, say, let's just say you had a $100,000 account, and you may not know it's a lot of money, so it's a random number, and it went 7%, you're going to make $7,000 on that, okay? That is the minimum that WorldCoin has ever pumped on a 5-day candle, and that is in the first 5-day period. Now, if on that same candle, if you look at the next 5-day period, it actually went up 17%, okay? So after 10 days, it went up 17%, right? And that was the max you got out of that particular signal, right? 17%. And I went and looked at days to the first high. So how long before you got to that 7%? And that was after 2 days, okay? I dropped down on my chart. It was on the 5-day period. I dropped down to the daily and went back and marked out for each of those lines how long it took to get to that first point. And that was 2 days. So after 2 days, you're at 7%. After 5 days, so as soon as you opened the first day to that second 5-day candle, you hit 17%, okay? And that was the highest you got on that one. And you can look at the average. So your average gain for a 5-day period was 19%. Your average gain for a 10-day period was 25%. Your average days for the first high was 4 days, and your average days for the max high was 10 days. So in other words, historically, it would not do you any good to hold this longer than 10 days. And as a matter of fact, at 19%, with 25% only being a few percent higher, it really wouldn't do you much better to hold this longer than 4 days, okay? Because 4 days is the average to the first high, okay? So I know when I enter this trade, I can be looking for about 19%, somewhere in the area of 4 days from the time the signal fires off, okay? But you can improve these stats and make more. What you want to look for if you enter on the 5-day, you want to look for the next weekly closing, and hopefully that's within that 5-day window. And if during that weekly closing you get the green dot there, you can expect continuation to the upside. You can see the weekly table is smaller, about half as much as the 5-day table, right? Which means only about half the time did you get follow through or continuation into the weekly time frame. But if you do see that weekly dot appear after the 5-day dot, if you do see that, you can expect more gains. So for this first weekly dot, which coincides with the weekly 5-day dot, right? So it occurred while we were still under the weekly 5-day dot. You got an additional 75% gain while under that 5-day dot still, okay? That was in the first week, so within the first candle, the first weekly candle, okay? And you can go on down the list. And now here you see some numbers in red for the 2-week. So for the 2-week, you got 41% gain. Now, that doesn't mean you dropped 41%. That means you actually came down about 34%. You were at 75% up, and then you dropped, so you were only 41% up. But I colored it red to let me know that you actually lost profits. You didn't lose money, but you reduced your profits that you were at by holding this for an extra week. And as you can see, every time except for 3 times, so 4 out of 7 times, it did not behoove you to hold this longer than 1 week. And then we want to refresh over here to the average days to the first high was 5. So really it didn't behoove you to hold this for longer than 5 days because you hit that first high at 5 days within the first weekly candle. At day 5 is when you averaged your first high. And if you held it for 2 weeks, sure, 3 out of the 4, you got a little extra on the gains, but 4 out of the 7, you did not. So best to probably cut your losses here, not your losses, to go ahead and realize your gains here after the first weekly candle. But you actually want to look at the 10-day. Once you're under that and you're getting your gains and you're trying to decide, do I get out after that first weekly candle or to let it ride? You look at the 10-day. And as you can see, the 10-day list is even shorter than the weekly list, okay? Which means every time you got a weekly candle, you did not necessarily get a 10-day candle to follow. If you did, the gains continue to increase, okay? So on this first one, this July one, you did not get it. But on the next one, on this late August one in early early September, you did get the 10-day green dot. So probably the next weekly time period, next 10-day time period, you got a green dot to continue onto the weekly green dot, which was a continuation from the 5-day green dot, right? Are you following me? I know it gets a little confusing, but you're basically just looking for that domino effect. You're looking for one dot to hit, enter your trade. As you're riding that and trying to decide to get out, you see if the next time frame dot fires off. If it doesn't, exit the trade. If it does, let it continue to ride, and you have your averages here and your high and your low. So you can know the most it's ever done, the least it's ever done, how many days it's taken. So you can really kind of manage this trade and know if you're getting out too soon or if it's probably time to get out. So whenever you got your August weekly dot, a couple of weeks later on the next 10-day time period, you got your 10-day green dot, which gave you an additional 21%. Okay, on top of what you already have, you got an additional 21% now, and that was in the first 10-day candle. If you held it to another 10-day candle, you got an additional 63% and a max total here of 213%. Now, most of this, your 21%, came within the first 6 days, okay? So this is beautiful. This is beautiful. And we did the same thing for the 2-week. We're not going to go through that, but we did the exact same thing for the 2-week. And you can see here on the 2-week, the red, it did not behoove you at all when you get a 2-week signal to hold this for more than one 2-week period. When you go out to 4-week, almost every one of these, you went into drawdown. Not drawdown necessarily, but less profit than you were. Okay, does that make sense? You didn't lose money. All of these were winners. Every single one of these was a winner. You didn't lose money. You just were up higher, and you just kind of reduced your profit if you held this for the second 2-week candle on the 2-week green dot. Okay, so this is a great strategy. I chose WorldCoin because when coins move, let's say your average Joe coin moves 15%, WorldCoin usually does 25%. On the flip side, the chart looks terrible, so we're not thinking about buying and holding this for years or anything. I know it looks terrible, but it moves. Again, when one coin does 15%, WorldCoin typically does 25 or 30%. On the flip side, when your coin dumps 15%, WorldCoin typically dumps 25 or 30%. So you got to take the good and the bad. So we just don't want to hold this coin too long. So we're going to look at the average number of days it takes to hit this high, see if we have continuation on the next time frame with another green dot. If we don't, it's time to get out, take our profits. Again, I showed this live on the live stream when I took it. I took it on this most recent. I entered $76,000 on this most recent 5-day green dot that we got 37% on. Matter of fact, we may still be under this dot. It hasn't played out yet. It did bleed over to the weekly, and we have not, and it did bleed over to 10-day, but we have not gotten a 2-week green dot on it yet. We are close. It looks like it's trying to give us a dot, but it hasn't come in yet. But I did take this trade, $76,000, and I will actually show it to you. Let me show it to you real quick. This is the 5-day right here. It doesn't look like much, but when you throw the ruler on there, you can see the green dot. We came in right there. I'm on the 5-day time frame, right on this line. Boom, up here to the top was a 38% pump. Okay, in the first 5 days, we did get the bleed over into the weekly, so it did carry over. So just a good trade, We put down over $20,000 in the bank account on this one trade for holding it for one 5-day period, and actually. Yeah, we held this one for 10 days. 10 days to the top. So in about 1 week time, we put over $20,000 in the bank. Did it live. Join us for our live streams. I'll walk you through how to do these. I'll let you know when I take these trades, how I'm managing them. I show you the signals, and I back it up. I put my money where my mouth is, and I actually live trade with you guys. So go ahead and choose your altcoins. If you're not sure how to do this, reach out, hit me up in the comments. I'll gladly walk you through this. I can share this spreadsheet with you so that you can have the format, or you can create your own. You can do it for any altcoin you like. I just happen to like the way WorldCoin moves, and I'm very familiar with it, so I chose that. But I also chose Algorand that I work with also. Algorand is in its 3rd cycle, so there's a lot of history there. You can see how it acts in the bear market and the bull markets. So it has become very, very predictable with its dots. Again, this goes better with more confluence, with money flow, with trend and things like that. But just blind trading these are the stats. That doesn't include anything else, just blind trading the dots on these time frames. Hope this helps you guys out. You can make a lot of money spot trading without risk of being liquidated by leverage trading. And if you like this content and other things like that, join the channel. Join us at AnthonyLeeCrypto.com. We would love to have you in the VIP Discord, and we will see you next time.